You struggling with line work? Line work is typically not something that I do. However, today we're going to be putting it in this piece. This is a cool combination of line work and 3RL shading. So we got these castles in here, these great structures on the bottom. We're going to start implementing some medieval characters. You can see we got this beautiful young man here. He's actually old, kind of older. He's a priest guy. So we're going to be outlining this to keep it, in the same style as what we've done so far. Get all the lines in, and then we are going to shade it with the 3RL. So I'll just be going over, what I'm thinking today, line work wise, shading wise, getting into a nice completed piece. We're going to be doing a cloud background, not really involving line work, more just shading, but I kind of like that contrast of having our main subjects with the structure, and then kind of a softer, non-structured background. So really the two focuses today are going to be the 5 liner and the 11. I like a big gap in between the line weights, just so it's very obvious, like smaller line, bigger line. If you're doing that, I typically like to kind of use the rule of like skipping a size. So if your small line's a 7, use at least an 11. If your small line's 5, use 9, right? We're skipping a line in between to get the difference in the line weights. We're doing a lot of the inner details with the 5. Some of the stuff I'm going to be double lining, like on the hand. I'm probably going to double line the outer portion of the hand and then taper off to create the digits and the fingers, and then just be using our 11 for kind of a bold other outline, and be putting an 11 on this guy as well. So major differences for me: the smaller lines are a little bit easier to work with. There's less needles, so it's less time for the needles to get into the skin. I can move a little bit quicker because we always have to make sure that we kind of plant our needle. We dig it in there, all 5 of those needles are hitting, and then we can run our line. With the 11, obviously there's more needles. So I might pause a second, dig, pause, and then move. I got to give time for all my needles to catch. And then I'll move slower, right? Because if I'm moving too fast, maybe one of the needles misses. These all kind of factor in to the consistency in our line. So I like to just start with the smaller line, and then if I have to, I can put the bolder line on top. So we're going to be starting with our 5, getting in some of these details. And then we're going to be using the 11 and our shading to help create some separation in there. So we're using our 5. So I'm kind of seeing some stuff like this staff is probably going to end up being an 11. So I'll kind of get in there, give time for it to catch, and then push the line on down. I'm just running at 4.6. If I notice some resistance, especially with the bigger liner, you might see me increase the speed a little bit, or I can move a little bit slower. It's really just making sure, you give the pressure and the time for all the needles to penetrate the skin, and then you're able to carry that. And then with these finger ditches, we're just going to plant, bring the line down, and then lift up. It's almost like a reverse flick. You can flick it too if you're more comfortable. And that'll kind of create a little like tapered edge. As the needle lifts, less needles catch, smaller line. I think lining for me is a lot about like the feel. A lot of like trial and error. Meaning you'll do a line, you wipe it off, it looks good. You start to associate the feeling in the hand to produce that line. Things like resistance from the skin, you know, which can be factored in by depth. And then whenever I'm creating a new line that's touching an existing, I'm planting in the existing line and working my way down the remainder of the line. Now when I'm coming to extend a line that is already in there, like this one here, I don't want to plant and then drag, because that's going to make this area of the line thicker. So what I'm going to do is gradually come in, almost like a plane that's landing, dig here, and now, you know, we're good. And we've just extended the line without making a part of the line thicker than the rest. Whenever I'm going to do a long line like this, sometimes it's good to plant and make sure you can reach the whole line. You know, this one is going to be a little bit long for me, but I'll plant into the existing line. And then the moment my hand gets uncomfortable, I'll lift up. You know, I'll always go to see if I can finish the entire line. But one thing I really learned early on is that if my hand's uncomfortable, it will usually show in the line. To help with consistency, this one I came up backwards. So just having like parallel lines, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna plant and try to recreate the same exact motion as opposed to coming down, right? I feel when we repeat the same motion, we get more consistency. And with some of these thicker lines, I'm gonna come back and shape the line. But just to keep everything kind of simple, I'm going to just the inside of the stencil line. So you can see I'm favoring the left side as opposed to the right side, knowing that I can come back in and thicken that line up. Now this one's actually a double line, so this one kind of flares out. So I'm going to kind of airplane land in. Now I'm at full depth. And that is going to create a taper into the line. And it is a double line because right now I'm lining like a fold being created, and I'll do the same thing. So I'm going to line both the outsides of it, knowing that I'm going to come in later to shape. I feel like a huge part to a clean line is a good stretch. So I just want to make sure we have a nice stretch. And there might even be times, like right now, my hand is comfortable and I could keep going on the line, but the skin wasn't stretched up there. So I'm just going to stop, I'm going to pull up. Now I have this top part stretched. I'm going to taper into the line, come back up. Flick out. The skinnier line kind of like lets me know that that will be shading and not a line. It's just my own kind of note that I made for myself in the stencil. I like to have 3 points of contact on my stretch if possible. I'll point them out to you now. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, right? Seems to get the skin pretty good. Cool. So let's just focus on the lines that we've created so far. And I'm going to wash my needle off really quick to get kind of a gray going, because I'm just nervous that I'm going to wipe away some of this freehand stuff. So I'm just going to gray line it real quick so I don't lose it. So to me, this is the fun part, where I get to like build up some of these lines. Typically I would do this, I think I would do this at the end of the tattoo. we're gonna, or once I like lined everything, but we're gonna do it now so I can kind of show you guys. And I'm just gonna start playing with some of the weights of these lines. So things I kind of want to like bring forward or define a little bit more. So there's an area of this, which is here, 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 that's all gonna be in shadow. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to thicken the line where the shadow kind of starts and ends. So right now I'm pretty much just going exactly over the line I already created. It makes it just a little thicker and more defined. So like even just doing that, you know, it gives it a little bit of structure. So everything on the inside here is going to be in shadow. This fold here is like highlighted, so we're gonna do that one as well. I'm gonna go around the border of the hand, so we already went on the bottom. I'm gonna go around the rest of the hand. And like with these blackwork style pieces, with anime style pieces, I feel like you can really exaggerate some of these lines. You can go like really thick, you can do huge tapers. And I just think that is really cool when appropriate for the piece. So as I'm making that line thicker, in comparison it makes the inside lines skinnier. Want some more definition to the staff. I'm gonna hit it one more time actually. So this time I'm gonna move a little bit outside the line to increase the thickness. Do the same thing here. I feel like it adds a little bit more to the piece. For me, it makes it a little bit more fun. You could, you know, use a thicker liner if you wanted to. I think it's fun to sculpt the lines. You can even do stuff where like I start outside the line here and then I taper right on top of the existing line, which kind of makes it go, you know, thick to thin. There's a bunch of different variations of like double lining and just like sculpting your lines. It could be really, really fun. You know, this one we did thicker up here and then it tapered off. But it's almost similar to the like etching or like engraving style or like microns. To me, it's just very fun to just use a skinnier needle and create really unique line shapes. But if you're not as comfortable with the liner, and like I'm using a 5 right now, and instead of double lining you just wanted to rip a 7, that's okay too. So we've like created some more definition. The inside here is going to be our darkest spot. And it's like fun at this point. At this point, you know, we've already created the outlines. It becomes very similar to like a coloring book. You have a lot of wiggle room in your shading because you have some of these thick, you know, lines here. You have nice borders, nice structure. I mean, this is going to be a tattoo that will hold up for a very, very long time, which we love that. Once you have your lines in, you can continue the shading, you know, and then we're good to go. So we are going to be replicating what I just did in this small area throughout the tattoo. The only differences are some of the intricate details here. I'll just do with the 3-liner and 3RL shading. The thick border on the outside, I'm going to be hitting with the 11. So I'm going to get a little bit more of this 5 line work done, and I'll come get you guys for the thick lines and some of the detail shading. Cool, we got a bunch of the thick lines in. I want to start, we got a bunch of the thin lines in. I want to start getting some of these thick ones. So we have the 11. So I'm gonna pause. Now I'm in, and I'm gonna carry the line. So we want to make sure, anytime we're using a liner, especially the larger liners, that all of our needles are hitting. You can kind of see the comparison. I know a little bit of that stencil's in there, so it's hard to see, and we'll continue the thick line. Got a nice thick boy in there. So we're also going to be using this for some separation between the lines. I'm going to bring this side down to thicken it. So with this piece, I'm being a little bit more abstract with my lines. I'm playing around with a lot of effects in the lines, different, thicknesses with double lines and stuff like that. There are times where I just kind of keep it pretty standard. It's a 5 will be a 5, 11 will be an 11. But just with this style of the piece, I just thought it would be really fun to kind of hit it with a little bit more illustrated approach, playing with the different line weights and the tapers. Now I'm going to move a little slower than I was with the 5, because I want to give the time for all the needles to stay in the skin. If you wipe off the line, you see that maybe there was an area that it didn't fully, commit. You can just go back over it. You just want to be careful about creating a double line. So like this was nice. It tapered out a little bit, so I just went back over the end to adjust it. If I brought it over the whole thing again, now it would make the top thicker. So there is a little bit an art to doing that. But the goal is obviously to get consistency. I feel like consistency is really down to speed, depth, and angle of approach. And if you can get those kind of the same every time, it will definitely show in your lines, right? More consistency, the more all the lines look the same, the better it looks. So my line here is a little bit skinnier than the stencil. So we're gonna pick one side of the stencil and just kind of favor that. So you can see I'm favoring the inner part of the circle. Cool, so we got the lines in here. Right now I'm kind of focusing on some of the solid black areas, and then I'm going to get in our dark background, which is going to be these bricks. It's going to be a pretty dark gray, and then I'll start moving my way in to the figure. But you take the time, you do what you need to do with the lines. The shading just becomes really easy and like stress-free. A lot of times I'll notice like with the client that the line work hurts a little bit more, so I'll try to kind of get in, get out, get the lines done, maybe then I'll take a break and then move into the shading. So let me get this dark background in with the 3RL. I'm just going to be running the 3RL right on top of the lines. Pretty consistent dark gray in the background there, which should make our figure pop out to the forefront a little bit more. So I'll get through that and then we'll check back in. All right, we're getting some of these shades, the values in here. This is by far the fun part. You know, if you take the time to put the work in with the lines, make it look nice, it really makes the shading process a lot easier. A lot of times, like with this style, the line work is pretty basic compared to the shading. Like the hand, you guys remember, it was just kind of the thick outline with the 3 lines in it, and we kind of cut the knuckles back, you know, making the hand a little more detailed. Which for me is fun to kind of just create a small, you know, area and then go a little nuts with the shading. Do a little bit more, I wouldn't say like realism, but you know, more detailed, more going on than what appears in the line work. Adding little folds to things, and this is kind of where I get to, you know, be a little more creative and loose. One thing I do try to keep in mind when I implement line work is to just be a little bit more gentle and careful with the skin, because we did open it up with the trauma from line work, which is more trauma than just like 3RL shading. So I'll try to be a little more efficient with the shading, so I don't overdo it. You know, I don't create damage to the skin or excess trauma. Yeah, so just be a little bit more gentle with the shading. Cool, so we are done. We've made it to the end of the session. We did get a complete piece on that inner knee kind of area. That spot is rough. Fortunately, we were able to power through. Did get pretty swollen. We're letting it just kind of relax a little bit. I'm giving my client a chance to take a breath. He's very excited to be done with that area, as anyone would be. So after we give it the appropriate time to relax, we'll get some pictures and videos. Check this one out.